Everyone, I'm Marisol or Marisol. I'm just gonna go over a little bit about me and then I'm gonna explain kind of what the EV Nautilus is, how I got involved, and like Denise mentioned, I'm here to answer any questions, whether it be, what it's like being a first generation student in college, the opportunities that are out for you all, or just anything about my presentation as a whole. Um, so to start off, I just wanted to introduce myself a little bit. So I was born and raised in Mexico. I was born in a small town called San Antonio Pachuquilla de Padua. It's like 3 hours, sort of, 3 hours to four south of Mexico City. Ooh, the sun is being a little weird. I think the closest big city I have is Toluca, if you're familiar with the actual state of Mexico. That's kind of a little bit of a geographical range of where I'm at. So I'm right in the middle of the country as a whole. Um, but when I was 5, my parents immigrated to Kennett Square, Pennsylvania, which is on the very eastern side of the state. It's like 45 minutes south of Philly, and I've been pretty much located in that area since then. Currently, I go to school at Indiana University of Pennsylvania, which is closer to Pittsburgh. Um, so it technically is on the other side of the state and 4.5 hours from my hometown. I included a picture on the right here. Um, so Kennett Square is the mushroom capital of the world. So we have like a mushroom festival every year. On New Year's, we have like a mushroom drop instead of the New Year's ball drop. It's a mushroom. I think it's pretty great, but a lot of people might think, it's a little strange. But because of the mushroom, I guess you could say, economy in Kennett, it is a very heavily immigrated town. There's a lot of mushroom farms. It's kind of the equivalent of, families immigrating to California to pick fields or, it's our equivalent to that. So instead of being outside in the fields, they're inside in the mushroom farms. Um, my dad still works in the mushroom farms. It's a very big thing in Kennett. And because of that, around, I think it was 49% of my high school was Hispanic. It was 49% and 50% was white and the 1% was other. So I was very, very lucky to grow up in an area that was very, I don't want to say it was diverse because it was quite literally black and white in a way, but it was diverse in the sense that everyone was appreciated for their contribution, and Kennett itself is very culturally rich in Hispanic culture, which I will never complain about. Great food, great music, great celebrations, and Kennett does a really good job about embracing the Hispanic community that comes into the town itself, which I feel very blessed, and it's not always the case in for a lot of Mexican or Hispanic families who immigrate to the US. So I feel very, very lucky that my town was very accepting of me. Um, Over here, I included a picture of some of my family. That's actually us when we lived in Mexico. I'm the one that has my shirt up. And next to that, I have a picture of my parents. They're really part of who I am and who I've become. So I love to shout out my parents, of course. Without their hard work and without their sacrifice, I would not be where I am today. But a little bit about me in terms of how I grew up. And now in elementary school, I was very much active, but it was hard for me to be active because I didn't know the language at all. I did not know English. Um, and it wasn't until probably my third or fourth year in the country that I technically was considered fluent. And in high school, we'll skip middle school, because it was very much, trying to find myself. But in high school, that like identity crisis that I think a lot of us go through when we don't really feel like we belong really, really hit me. I was involved in a lot of honors, AP classes. And that's not to toot my own horn, but even though I was in a high school where 49% of the students were Hispanic. I was one out of three students in my honors classes. And I stayed with the same cohort all 4 years. So it was kind of weird because I always felt, I guess, not white enough to relate to them, but also the Mexican groups or the Hispanics groups didn't see me as Hispanic or Mexican enough to relate to them, especially because of my white passing, physicality. So it was hard for me to kind of connect with people in that aspect of things until I joined a few organizations within my high school career that really embraced being, part of the Hispanic community. I joined Hermanitas, which Mana, it's a national organization. I don't know if they have a chapter in Oregon, but I know they do for sure in California and Texas and some states in the West. But that joining groups like that really, really helped me connect with my identity and made me realize that, I could still be part of my cultural identity with maybe not looking the part. And even though sometimes, we have to be understanding of people who maybe don't look the part, but they still struggled the generational traumas of immigrating to a new country, like I still struggled the financial struggles that my parents had to go through, especially them not knowing the language either. My parents did not attend high school, let alone college. I think my dad dropped out at 11. He was working out in Mexico with his dad. And when he was 14, that's when he started traveling to the US and working back and forth. And my mom, I can't remember what age she dropped out, but she's the oldest out of like the picture right here with all the little kids. Those are all her siblings. And the two people in the back are her parents. The three younger ones, the three younger girls, those are my cousins. But because she was the oldest daughter, she was expected to take care of her younger siblings. So she dropped out at a very young age as well. Um, so it was really difficult, like in high school, just not knowing how to navigate high school in general, but also college apps and understanding how to apply to college. That in itself was a struggle. Um, so I definitely was very overwhelmed with the whole college app process. Eventually, I found a few like scholarships. I applied to Questbridge. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. I know Denise had a student who matched through Questbridge. But I applied to Questbridge. I became a finalist. I did not end up matching, and I kept getting deferred and waitlisted literally everywhere. And it was really hard. It was really, really hard because I felt like I put in so much time, and so much work into literally my whole high school career to build the best of the best resumes and get into the best of the best. But it didn't happen for me. So I ended up here, which I've grown to love, but it was definitely the last place I wanted to end up. Um, but I know for a fact that if I would have ended up somewhere else, I would not have gotten the opportunities that I have gotten at an institution here. So, in college, a little bit of a transition. I actually started off as a criminology major. And through that, my first semester, because I did so much in high school, I really wanted to take it easy. And I did. I did that and I just kind of, I was like, whatever, I'll try to graduate when I graduate, whatever. Like I'm over this school thing. I was really burnt out. I was really burnt out. But um I ended up taking a science class that is required. A science class in your 4 years of college is required as a non-science major. So I decided to go to with geoscience because I don't know, just earth science always fascinated me. So I was like, why not? And I ended up falling in love with it. And I fell in love with the lab specifically, just being hands-on and like understanding things from a different perspective. We had to do like different mapping and like identifying structures and hey, this happened in the Precambrian, things like that. And I found it absolutely fascinating. Um, so I was like, I'm gonna take the second science course equivalent to this, and eventually I did. And I fell in love with it even more, and it became my minor. So I had criminology as my main degree, and then geoscience as my minor. And my one of the faculty members I really, really connected with in the geoscience department, the very, very, very first lesson he mentioned STEMSeas. He co-founded STEMSeas with one of his colleagues in Columbia University. And I was really intrigued by it, so I looked it up. And when I added the minor, I was like, why not give it a shot and apply? STEMSeas is a program that takes undergraduate students on 6 to 10 day expeditions out at sea. So you're on research vessels, and that's how I got involved with ocean exploration. But at the time, I just applied, for the thrill of it all. I didn't think I was going to get it. It is not, I don't want to say it's completely impossible, but they do get a large pool of applicants. And my professor at the time, he was very much no help because he was like, I can't be biased. Like, you're gonna have to do this on your own, which I understood. I understood that. Um, but some key takeaways just from my experience and my journey through then. Really, truly, rejection is redirection. I felt like I had a plan my whole life, my whole high school career, and totally didn't did not go the way I planned it. But it truly didn't matter at the end of the day. My journey is a little bit different, and it's never going to be linear. But you can truly, truly make the best out of whatever path you're on. I'll continue. Okay. So like I mentioned, I applied to STEMSeas, and when I applied, I was applying for the summer after my freshman year of college. I made it to the interview rounds, and I was really excited, but I also had a super busy summer. I was going back to Mexico to visit family. Um, I had to take a few summer classes. So it was a little bit of a busy summer, and the way the process works to apply, it's like you interview, and if you hear back, cool, you're in. If you don't hear back, expect that you didn't get it. So I didn't hear back. I did not hear back, and I was kind of like, okay, whatever. Rejection is redirection again. And now, my second year of college passes. I'm still at a minor level for geoscience, and again, I just keep taking the classes. I find out that I can graduate early with my crim degree. So I decided to pursue both degrees, make the most out of my 4 years in college. Um, so. I made my minor into a major, and all of a sudden I was dual degreeing in criminology and geoscience. The classes kept getting harder, challenging. A lot of people think geoscience is just rocks. Trust me, it's not. There's physics, there's chemistry, there's bio, there's so many other forms of science involved. And it's one of those disciplines that's really interdisciplinary rather than just one straightforward thing. But I was kind of really struggling, kind of just again, I kept getting like no's and no's and no's. Like the big thing was rejection in my life at the time, right? And I just was like having a hard time. And then out of nowhere, my sister came to the same institution as I did. In May, I was taking her graduation pictures outside on campus, and I get an email from Sharon Cooper, the other co-founder of STEMSeas. She was like, "Hey, an expedition opened up. It's in 3 weeks. We'd love to have you. Can you fly to Hawaii in 3 weeks?" And I was like, "Oh, please sign me up." Like, it's fully funded. It was going to be a 10-day expedition. My only con to it was that my birthday was actually gonna be while I was on the ship. And I was really sad about being away from home for my birthday, but I was like, I'm never going to get this experience ever again. It's truly a one in a lifetime experience, so I was just gonna, let's do it. I just was like, sign me up. What do you need from me? When can I fly out? Um, so probably in the process of like a few days, I had my flights ready. I was sent my packing list. And there was a few people on the EV Nautilus that was, the expedition was opened up to the EV Nautilus. There was a few people through the EV Nautilus that had like a few Zoom calls for us about some like training, and like basic training and just what the expedition was about. So I attached some pictures of the expedition itself. Now I sailed from, oh geez, it was May 24th through June 2nd of 2024. So, here's a picture of the Nautilus itself. The one on the left is, the bottom left is a picture I took when we were leaving the port of Hawaii. We landed in Honolulu. We got to spend 24 hours in Honolulu before we actually, oh, no, it was like 48 hours in Honolulu before we actually left. So, I got to go to Waikiki Beach, which is like the most famous surfer beach in the world. It was really cool. And then I attached some pictures in the middle. That one was probably from a few days into our expedition, definitely post seasickness. And at the bottom, there's a studio that on the EV Nautilus that actually is like a big science communication studio. They have like a big emphasis on science communication. So they're live streaming 24/7. Anything that they see when they send the ROVs down, they're live streaming 24/7 what the ROVs are capturing. But when they're just on, the ship itself, they also do something called I forget the name. It's like ocean. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking out on the name. But they basically do like calls on Zoom with schools, groups, any kinds of people, um, through the ship to land. Oh, ship to shore. That's what it's called. Ship to shore. Ship to shore interactions. So we were constantly on Zoom communicating and connecting with people on land while in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. At some point in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, it's quite literally a desert, by the way. It's the ocean desert, what I like to call it. But we were the closest humans next to us, besides the people on the ship itself, were people out in space. That's how far away we were from land, which is kind of like scary to think about, but it was such a cool experience. Now, my expedition focused on seafloor mapping, which I have a slide about next, and I'll talk a little bit about what it is. But basically, we actually were in a transmit expedition from Honolulu to Sydney, BC. So I sailed all the way from Honolulu to Canada, in the span of 9 days, there for 10, and we mapped the ocean floor as we were going all the way through, um, across the Pacific Ocean. That map is really, really helpful. The seafloor is constantly changing, but also for the purpose of the EV Nautilus itself. Once we got off the ship, the mapping was done, of course. They actually take a transit expedition back to Hawaii, and they dropped ROVs like RV Hercules, and they specifically dropped them in spots that we mapped that looked interesting. So if we mapped an underwater volcano or something that looked like a geothermal pocket, anything like that, anything interesting, that's when they would take the ROVs and drop them in those specific spots. There's a few, my friend went on, it was a different ship, but it was like a similar kind of um deal, and they specifically focused on like shipwrecks. So they would map the seafloor and see if there was any like evidence of a shipwreck, and then take down the ROVs that they had on their ship to find those shipwrecks. So it's something cool about just seafloor mapping in general. Um, Yeah, I think that's everything for this slide. Okay. Seafloor mapping. I stole these from the Ocean Exploration Trust. If you guys need or want to learn more, EV Nautilus has really, really great information about, what seafloor mapping is and what its benefits are. The EV Nautilus specifically has like a multi-beam echo sounder. The way it works, if you look to the top right over here, it basically sends like beams of sound that kind of like spray out, and whatever is reflected back is basically mapped out, if that makes any sense. So they're mapping out the bathymetry, or it's the equivalent of the topography, but instead of the topography being on land, it's the bathymetry of the seafloor. So on the right, you see kind of how that beam frays out, and at the bottom, you see the actual resolution images that come from it. Um, Now, on the top left picture, that's actually a picture that I took while on the EV Nautilus. We have like a little lounge area that's projecting TVs, and the TVs are projecting what we're mapping and what we're over. And this area right here is what I think is an underground volcano. Not sure if it's active, but it's one of those spots that the scientists look out for to see if that maybe that's a spot of interest that they want to come back to and drop the or ROVs at. But yeah, basically the seafloor, or sorry, the multi-beam acoustic echo sounder shoots down and reflects back the bathymetric data to kind of create an image of the seafloor. And it's a lot more effective than anything we've done in the past. In the past, they used to do like single beams where it would be like, one area of the seafloor instead of a wide area. I forget what the original method was, but decades ago, they used
Red
to send
lines are
a little like they described it to us like as a quite literally like a pulley, and they would measure out it'd basically be like a long rope with like a weight attached to it. They bring the weight all the way down with the rope, and they would measure down how much rope they used, and then they'd move the ship a little bit more, do the same process, and continue measuring how much rope was used to create like a map of the seafloor. And that method took very, very long. And it was just completely not as effective as something like this. So this is very nice technology. Um, but that's pretty much all I have in terms of, what the EV Nautilus is and what seafloor mapping is. I would love to hear back from you guys. I attached a picture or in the slideshow if you guys can see my email, and also STEMSeas. If you guys are interested in ocean exploration, I totally, totally recommend applying. I think you can apply as long as you're committed to a 4-year institution. But even 2 years post-grad, you're eligible. It's just a really, really great opportunity to get out there. It's fully funded, fully covered. So all you really have to do is just show up. But yeah, make sure you guys are saying yes to opportunities, trying your best in schools. Grades do matter. But overall, just make sure to make connections. That's all for me.
all right. You guys have questions? I bet you got a ton of questions. Yeah, what you got? Can you hear us or?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. What was like your greatest motivator to like continue your education? Because I know sometimes I like get really like stressed and I want to give up and like kind of like what you said, break out. I was like, what's your greatest motivator for like college and like pursuing a higher education?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like there's a lot of, for me, self-imposed pressure of just not, like scared of being a failure, if that makes any sense. That's very vulnerable, but I feel like I think my biggest motivation is my parents truly they gave everything up, like everything, back in Mexico. For me and my sister, and I have a baby sister who was just born, they gave everything up for us to pursue an education. So it would be kind of, I think, a letdown for me knowing that they did all of that, they sacrificed all of that just for me not to even give it a try. School is not for everybody. School is not for everybody. And I live by that because I have some of my best friends who are some of the most hardworking individuals I know. But being in college teaches you so many important life skills that people that don't go to college miss out on. Even if it's trade school, even if it's, some sort of goal that you have to further your or better your chances of getting a better job, or maybe being in a position where you can like actually study or something passionate about. um I feel like it's worth it. It's not for everybody, but it's definitely worth it. And I'm very lucky and blessed to have an opportunity like this, so why wouldn't I give it a try? Does that make sense? I hope that answered your question. But it's a lot of self-imposed pressure, but also just the sacrifice my parents made. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a couple more. Sorry.
It's
Um,
okay.
so as a high schooler, since these three front of us are high schoolers, what advice would you give them for like things that they should look out for in the future? And also as a college student, me going into college next year, what is some tips you would give us?
Oh, okay, well, as a high schooler, um, I mean, it's so important. I know it sounds so redundant, but if you're like early on stage high schooler, grades matter. They really do. And I mean that in the best way possible, just because when you are applying to schools, they do look at those grades, and the better you do academically, the more scholarships you get. Um, Currently, I'm on a full ride scholarship, and I don't think I would have been able to get that opportunity if I didn't, challenge myself, get involved, but also just like make sure my GPA is doing okay. It's a lot. I know it's a lot, especially in high school. I feel like my like last 2 years of high school were harder than my first semester of college. Um, so keep that in mind, but also just join an organization in high school. And if you can, take a leadership position in it, just because it shows you, not even just for the resume, it genuinely gives you such a different perspective of how things are run, which is a really important skill to have once you enter college. And in terms of college, I think an advice for you I can give is definitely to network. Um, Know your worth. I feel like there's a lot of people that I'm friends with who are so, I don't want, they're very eager to kind of accept any opportunity that comes their way, which is not a bad thing. Definitely say yes to opportunities. But if you're in a position where maybe you're talking to a potential employer and you don't like the work environment, or you don't get good vibes from that employer, or they don't treat you well, don't do it. Don't do it. Know your worth too. Like, know what you're working for. Um, yeah, and I've never felt that way in an organization like STEMSeas. I felt like I was very heard and recognized, but I promise you, if I thought felt otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I truly wouldn't. Yeah, but definitely network, make connections.
Like you said you were close with your family, right? How do you cope with like being so far away from them?
Yeah, that's something I still struggle with. I'm not gonna lie. Um, I keep telling myself, it's just gonna pay off one day. Like one day it'll pay off. Like I truly feel like whatever I'm doing, whatever I accomplish, it's in their honor. My mom just had a baby like 2 weeks ago, and I was able to go home for the baby's actual birth, for my little sister's birth. But it's hard like being away from home and missing out on like her first few weeks of life. But I also do my best to, keep in touch, call, learn the recipes, my mom's chile relleno recipe right here. Whenever I'm craving it, I know how to make it. Little things like that. Um, yeah, it gets easier. It really does. I feel like I was a lot more homesick my freshman year, but you kind of get that you make room for the feeling of like being away from home. And I've also found a home here. I found like my great group of friends. Whenever I'm in Kenya, I miss them. So it's like I'm homesick for them, if that makes sense. Um, it's a lot of back and forth, and I mean, I definitely have my days where I'm a lot more homesick than other days, but just remembering like why I'm doing what I'm doing makes it a lot better.
The rellenos are so good. They're so hard to make, but so worth it in the
I
end.
know, they're really good though. Yeah, it's that, and I make a lot of flautas.
Oh, like tacos dorados.
Tacos dorados, yeah.
They're my mom's best. My mom's best.
Yeah, I think I make them better than my mom now because I make them so much here, but
Oh, snap.
it's me being biased.
What do you guys up front? Any questions?
Um,
I got one question.
Yeah.
How do you like balance college classes and like high school classes?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. I have to like think back. Um, it was a lot. I am, especially in high school, the world's biggest procrastinator. But I really tried to set my goals, make smaller goals for yourself. Like instead of making like bigger goals for, hey, I want to get an A in this class, make smaller goals in terms of like how you're gonna get there, if that makes any sense. So I would make weekly goals for myself, like this week I'm gonna finish my 6-page paper that's due. I'm gonna start it early. Little things like that would help you reach your ultimate goal. So it's really about like setting a plan for yourself and not trying to take it all in at once, step by step. I guess also I forgot to mention right now, I'm a third year, so I'm technically a junior, but I'm still gonna graduate early. It'll be a semester early. And I'll be graduating with both degrees. I'm looking into grad programs. Currently, I'll have to apply in the summer. But I'm definitely gonna do something science related. And then once I figure it out, I'll be adding the policy aspect of it, like with my crim degree. I feel like that makes sense. And eventually I want to pursue science policy and environmental justice.
how were like your parents about your decision about switching from did you say like a criminal to like not a criminal, but like
Criminology to geoscience. Um,
like,
you were asking about my parents' reactions to that?
yeah, kind of like what was their response to like this way?
Yeah, I feel like my parents don't know, period, just because they've never been to college. So you tell them the word major and they're like, whatever you want, sweetie. You know what I mean? Um, but they're always supportive. I think they I needed the science in my life to like continue being, you know, thinking. The crim is great because you get the humanitarian aspect and you get a lot of like discussions with people. You talk about like current events, stuff like that. I love that aspect of crim, but I definitely need the science to keep me thinking and to keep me challenging myself in a more like cognitive empirical level, if that makes any sense. And I feel like my mom especially noticed that I was a lot happier and more passionate about what I'm doing than just like pursuing a degree and not knowing what I want to do with it, which isn't a bad thing either. You don't have to know what you want to do. But I feel like they're supportive regardless. And it's always a flex to say I'm graduating with 2 degrees in 3.5 years. You guys have any more questions? I can answer anything, truthfully.
You have like a specific study, not like a study routine that you have, or like something you recommend students that would make like getting work done easier?
You said a story, what, sorry?
Like a, like what is it, like a study routine or something?
Oh, a study routine. Um, Definitely. I'm a big fan of Quizlet. I use it for flashcards. But I also think one thing I didn't really explore in high school was studying in groups, like study groups. And that's really helped me here. I like go to tutoring almost every day. No, like maybe like 2, 3 times a week. It feels like it's almost every day. But in tutoring, if the tutor is busy, it's just like a group of us sitting with 1 or 2 tutors. And if the tutor is busy, we try to help each other out, which is really, really helpful. Also, practice problems, like not just doing the work, but becoming comfortable with doing other types of problems that either you find on the internet or you make up yourself are really helpful. Yeah, I found that at least in my institution, the classes or the courses I'm taking are not really like standardized tests where it's like multiple choice. They're mostly all open-ended. So, um, practice problems, word problems, all the things.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Oh, thank you so much, Mom.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll stay in touch with you. We'll give you updates on how the LEAP program, Latinos Explorando Aguas Profundos, is going.
Please, yeah, I want to see the ROVs.
Okay.
Um,
You got it.
Also, Denise, if you don't mind sharing my contact information with them, please reach out at any point of the day. It may take me like 24 hours to get to you, but I'm always willing to talk and I'm very open to connect you with people if I don't know the answer. But thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank
Hasta
you.
luego. Nos vemos.
Thank you.